All right, good morning, everyone. It is 9:12 a.m. on Thursday, August 22nd, 2024. This is the briefing of the Dallas City Planning Commission. We have a quorum present. Just as a reminder, this is the time for staff to give presentations and for us as members of the commission to ask questions of staff. You know, the substantive discussion can take place later this afternoon. Can we go ahead and begin with the roll call, please? Sorry.
Good morning, commissioners. District 1, Commissioner Shernock.
Present.
District 2, Commissioner Hampton. District 3, Commissioner Herbert.
Present.
District 4, Commissioner Forsyth.
Present.
District 5, Chair Shadid. District 6, Commissioner Carpenter.
Present.
We need to recess briefly. Our doors are locked outside. Doors are open, so let's start over. It's 9:14 a.m. on Thursday, August 22nd, 2024. This is the briefing of the Dallas City Plan Commission, and we have a quorum. Can we start with the roll call?
Sir. Good morning, commissioners. District 1, Commissioner Shernock.
Present.
District 2, Commissioner Hampton.
Present.
District 3, Commissioner Herbert.
Present.
District 4, Commissioner Forsyth.
Present.
District 5, Chair Shadid. District 6, Commissioner Carpenter.
Present.
District 7, Commissioner Wheeler Reagan. District 8, Commissioner Blair. Present. District 9, Commissioner Sleeper. District 10, Commissioner Housewright.
Present.
District 11, Commissioner Epler. District 12, vacant. District 13, Commissioner Hall. District 14, Commissioner Kingston. And place 15, Vice Chair Rubin.
I'm here.
You have quorum, sir.
Great. There has been a request to brief the development plan, item 1. So, Ms. Blue, whenever you're ready.
All right, good morning, everyone. Good morning, co-chair and commissioners. This is item number 1D234005. It's a application for a new development plan. It's on a land that's approximately 21 acres. It's in Council District 6, and it's located in Plan Development District 1012. The property is located along the west line of Stemmons Freeway, Service Road, and north of Viceroy Drive. Here's a few details about the request. The purpose of the request is to allow for a community research campus for Salvation Army. There are some regulations in the PD that requires this additional use, as well as associate uses and in conjunction uses with this resource campus. And so below here, I have campus land uses. These are the uses that are going to be on campus. They'll have an overnight general purpose shelter, a dining facility, a church, a medical clinic, an office, a warehouse, an indoor animal shelter. They're also going to have transitional housing, a child care facility, a community service center, a private recreation center, a technical school, some site amenities that would include a dog park and also a DART bus station on site. This below information, so for the overnight shelter, as that's going to be the emergency shelter, and also the transitional housing. They will have 204 units. I am so sorry. Let me slow down just a bit. For the overnight general purpose shelter and the transitional housing, they will have 224 units. So for the transitional housing, it will be 158 units. For the overnight general purpose shelter, it would be 66 units. And so PD 1012, and as well as the base zoning district, there's no max density. So they are allowed to have these units, these additional dwelling units on campus. Here's an area view of the property. And also it's surrounded by IR and then some MU3, which is mixed use. Here's a zoning map of the property. Here's the conceptual plan that was approved with the original ordinance. Here is the proposed development plan for the property, showing the location of the buildings, the church as the center, some parking around the building, and then also the DART bus stop at the southeast corner of Viceroy and Stemmons. Here is the enlargement of that development plan. And so the other day, there were some concerns about a few items that was on the development plan. The first concern was the applicant had proposed dwelling units, but it was not specified. There was concerns if they were going to have permanent transitional housing. That is not the case. They're only going to have the transitional housing and the overnight general purpose shelter. So we added that note to the site data table. And then also there is a clause in the PD that requires them to call out the deceleration lane, and that will be approved by TxDOT later at permitting once they go through the engineer review. And so that also was added to the development plan. And staff recommendation as of today is approved as brief. This concludes my presentation.
Thank you, Ms. Blue. Any questions on this item? Commissioner Carpenter.
Yes, Ms. Blue, I just want to clarify that the standard here for approving a development plan is that it complies with the zoning, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Commissioner Hall.
Ms. Blue, so the zoning in the PD is sufficient to cover everything that they want to do?
Yes, sir. So the zoning in the PD had the addition, well, actually, they wrote the PD. So the zoning in the PD actually had the additional land use for the community resource campus, and then they had these additional uses that they also wanted to add on campus. And so they added those uses on campus. And with the additional use, they had to have 2 of the associate uses in order to have the in conjunction uses. So yes, they comply with all the land uses that's on campus, as well as the requirements for design standard for sidewalks, for fencing, for rescue areas and different places that was proposed within the development plan.
And so they will not have to come back to us in the future with a zoning case?
The only reason I see that they might have to come back, I'm not over at permitting anymore. I don't know what's going to go in when they go in and permit it, because this is just a development plan, so it's just preliminary information. And once they get their construction documents, it'll be more detailed. But as far as what I see, they have their buildings in place, footprint-wise. If there's any reason that they want to add any additional uses that's called out in the PD, then they can come in and add those buildings in the future.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions? All right, let's move on to case number 2. Mr. Roberts.
Thank you, Vice Chair. Can everybody hear me all right?
Yes, sir.
Wonderful. Thank you. Bear with me. Swamp. Can everybody see my screen?
We cannot see your screen yet.
Oh, okay. How about now?
We can see it now.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you, Vice Chair. Thank you, Commission. This is KC 223-325. That's a SUP to allow for a private recreation center, club, or area on a property zoned R75. It's located at the northwest corner of Woodcrest Lane and Skillman. It is anticipated to be adjacent to and in conjunction with a child care facility to the north, and I'll give you a little bit of context to that. So see its location there in the city. Looking at the aerial map, you'll see it is at that hard corner of Woodcrest and Skillman. The property just to the north is with the child care facility under a PD and associated SUP, and then single family homes in the area. You can see that zoning condition there. Historic aerials show us that there was a single family home or a similar structure on this site. It has since been removed. As I mentioned earlier, the child care facility to the north, established under PD 4938, that's a site-specific PD, as well as a SUP 1976. There's an unimproved alley right-of-way to the west of this site, and there are a handful of mature trees on site anticipated to be preserved. During the site visit, you can see photos of the property looking east, Woodcrest. Looking north, you can see that unimproved alley right away. It looks like there are utilities occupying that space to the left of that photo. Standing at the corner, looking into the site, see that back fence of the child care facility, and then looking up Skillman. Some development standards, the standards in the R75 district would prevail here. The one I want to point out is the parking condition. It does require 3 for the games court/field unless otherwise approved by an SUP. So you'll notice that that is a condition on this site. Let's see, looking at the site plan, you can see the proposed SUP area in yellow. Some of the specified conditions, 5-year period of eligibility for automatic renewals for additional 5 years. No parking the request is that no parking be required as it's anticipated to be associated with the child care facility. The hours of operation for the field are from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. or they're proposed to be, and field lighting is expressly prohibited. So with that, staff's recommendation is approval for the 5-year period and eligibility for automatic renewal, and happy to answer any questions that you have.
Commissioner Sleeper.
I have a question. It says this is District 2, but it looks a whole lot like District 9. Are we sure about that?
Yeah, I apologize, Commissioner. It should be 9, I believe.
Okay, thank you.
There on my end.
Any other questions on this item? All right, seeing none, we'll move on to our next item, number 3, Mr. Bate.
Good morning, Commission. This is item 3 in this case. Let me get this out of the way. Case Z234-158. It is an amendment to specific use permit number 2071 for a detached non-premise sign or billboard on property zone planned development district number 1013, located on the south line of LBJ Freeway, west of Bankway Lane, approximately 672 square feet in size. Here it is in the far northwestern section of the city. An aerial map with a funny looking boundary there, just the way we render things. And the zoning map, as you see, it's within this small PD 1013, surrounded by MU2 to the west, southwest, and then PD 140 to the east, generally just office buildings. The area of request, it is developed with this detached non-premise sign or billboard on a lot developed with an office building. Applicants requesting renewal of the SUP for a period of 10 years. It was previously approved by the City Council on February 12, 2014 for a period of 10 years. It expired on February 12th of this year, and they filed for renewal on January 22nd. Here we are on LBJ Freeway looking southwest towards the sign, and looking west As you can see, it's well, it's a busy interstate highway service road with office uses around. The proposed conditions, all they're requesting is just another 10 years on the SUP. Staff recommendation is approval.
Commissioner Hall?
Thank you, Mr. Bates. Is this the smallest SUP in the city of Dallas?
I do not have exact information on the sizes of our different SUPs, but I would venture to guess that this and a few other billboards would constitute some of the smallest SUPs, yes.
Yeah, and this billboard has been there at least 10 years, is that correct?
At least 10 years, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions on this item? All right, we'll go, oh, sorry, Commissioner Sleeper.
Is there a standard maximum term that the city allows for billboards? And is this the maximum?
There's no codified maximum, but when I was looking at our list of billboard SUPs, they've all been done for 10 years.
So 10 is the standard, if not the maximum?
I would say 10 is the custom at least, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? All right, we will move on to item 4, back to Mr. Roberts.
Thank you, Vice Chair. Bear with me as I get this. Can everyone see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you. This is case Z234-161. It's a request for a new SUP that would allow for commercial motor vehicle parking on property zoned LI, that's light industrial. There are a series of deed restrictions that I'll go over and that are listed in your report. The property is currently undeveloped. It's located approximately 1,000 feet or so southwest from the corner of Bonneview and Telephone. The requested expiration is for 5 years. It does come with eligibility for automatic renewals. Background, the LI Light Industrial District covers 3 parcels, lots 39, address 3925 and 3935. Have a few active deed restrictions that relate to site design. I've listed some of those here, at least the abridged versions. And then there are also several use prohibitions. The commercial motor vehicle parking is not included in those prohibitions. I can see its location here on site. Again, you can see those 3 parcel lines. If you look and see those blue sort of parcel divisions. Again, sort of closer look there, surrounded by several distribution and warehouse uses, as well as some agriculturally zoned land and vacant and undeveloped land. Taking a look at the site off of Telephone, looking northwest into a existing driveway. Looking into the site, again, just a vacant. Looking across, there's a active similar use commercial motor vehicle across Telephone. Taking a look at the proposed site plan, 2 points of access on Telephone, sort of servicing 2 different lots separated by lot lines. With that, staff's recommendation is approval for the 5-year period with eligibility for automatic renewals, and I'm available to answer any questions as I can.
Thank you, Mr. Roberts. I'll note for the record that Commissioner Wheeler joined us online at 9:30. Any questions for staff on this one? All right. Seeing none, we'll move on to our next item, item 5, Ms. Bridges.
This is case Z234-173. It's an application for an amendment to the specific use permit number 1393 for a private school on property zone in R75, Single Family District on the east line of Rugged Drive, northwest of Ledbetter Drive. Its location map, the area request is outlined in blue. This is a zoning map surrounding the site. You do have single family and you have John W. Carpenter Elementary School. This is the site plan. The next few pictures will be pictures of the site and the surrounding area. Staff recommends approval.
Any questions? Commissioner Forsyth?
Could you help me to understand? My understanding is that this was SUP expired and that basically, I believe it was expired somewhere like earlier in the year. And so could you help me to understand what happened there?
Yes, sir. By the time the applicant applied to renew their SUP, it expired, so they have to go through the process again.
And this says an application for an amendment to the SUP. So what does the amendment specifically entail?
It's really no amendment, so there was an error. It's just to renew the SUP.
Okay.
Commissioner Forsyth, do you have further questions?
I can jump in on the kind of history of this SUP a little bit. So the background section of the staff report, it does talk about the fact that the applicant missed their window for automatic renewal of the SUP, but they did not miss their deadline to file for a regular renewal of the SUP. The SUP was set to expire on February 25th, 2024, and they filed on February 21st. So this would be a renewal of the existing SUP rather than an entirely new one.
Great, thank you, Mr. Mulkey. Commissioner Carpenter, do you still have a question?
Yes, from reading the report, I understand that the staff is recommending approval, that the traffic management plan is acceptable, but in reading it in detail, it seemed that there were quite a few disagreements, that the traffic engineers thought that there was considerable room for improvement the way the traffic moved here. But that being the case, is the staff willing to give the traffic management plan that they're currently following a chance to operate?
From my understanding, yes, ma'am. Whenever I spoke with David, that was, his decision.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any further questions on case number 5?
Judge Chair, I have one.
Yeah, go ahead, Commissioner Herbert. Sorry, didn't see there online.
It's okay. Want to make sure that the SUP, the time frame of the SUP, if you can, Jim.
Commissioner Herbert, what was the question?
The time frame of the SUP that's being presented.
Are you talking about the proposed time limit or the history of the SUP?
The proposed, I'm sorry.
Okay. Do you want to take that one, Gianna?
Well, the time frame will be for 20 years, and then after that, an automatic renewal for an additional 20 years.
Okay, and if there's a problem with the traffic management plan, because I know some people have a shorter time frame in regards to the traffic management plan, but if neighbors or someone finds out that this traffic management plan isn't working, can we bring this back to the board?
So the time period of the SUP that's being proposed, as Gianna said, is 20 years with eligibility for auto renewal for additional 20-year periods. But if you look at the language of the traffic management plan condition for the SUP, they're required to submit an update to their traffic management plan by November 1st of next year. And then they're required to submit updates to that plan every 2 years.
Okay.
Following
Perfect.
that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions on this one? All right, and case number 4, by the way, has come off of consent, so we'll take that up as an individual item. Case number 6, Mr. Bate.
This is case, or item 6, case Z234-193. It is an application for a specific use permit to allow vehicle display sales and service on property zone Sub-District 1 within Plan Development District Number 535, the CF Han Special Purpose District Number 3, with a D1 liquor control overlay, located on the west corner of CF Han Freeway and Ellenwood Drive, approximately 1.17 acres in size, here in the far southeastern part of the city. Here's an aerial map. This is the zoning map. As you see, it is within that PD. There's various industrial uses around, as well as a cell tower, radio tower antenna, as well as an industrial inside use, and then commercial service use to the southwest and an undeveloped property to the east-southeast. The property is currently developed with a vehicle display sales and service business. They were previously issued SUP number 2276 for vehicle display sales and service, and that SUP expired on June 9th of last year. Here we are on Ellenwood Drive looking southwest with the site to the right. Then looking south away from the site, looking towards the east at that undeveloped property. Towards the northeast with the site to the left of the photo. Looking north at the site. Looking northwest towards the site. Looking southwest, this is more at the corner of Ellenwood and CF Han. Double photo. And then on CF Han looking towards the site. And then northwest with the site on the left. This is the proposed site plan. Proposed conditions, it is for vehicle display sales and service. The time limit would be for a 4-year period. That would require the 6-foot-high wrought iron fencing, hours of operation 8 to 8, Monday through Saturday, prohibition of flags and pennants, and staff recommendations approval.
Thank you, Mr. Bate. Commissioner Blair.
Good morning, Mr. Bate. Is it not correct that this particular PD goes between 2 districts, District 5 and a small piece of District 8?
I would have to check the district map versus, or the PD map versus the council district map, but I believe so, yes. I'll take your word for it. Yeah.
Yes.
All right.
The freeway actually separates the two.
Got it.
So can you explain how this applicant allowed their SUP to expire? Do you know the back history of why?
Yes, I did handle the prior request for renewal on that SUP, and my understanding was that the reason for denial was due to a lack of compliance with both certain requirements for permits and with their prior SUP conditions and site plan.
So can you help me, have they now become compliant in all of the issues that kept them from getting their SUP on time?
I don't have as much insight into some of their code or their building permits and kind of construction permits and whatnot. I would recommend certainly asking that of the applicant. But we did advise them to ensure that those issues were addressed as part of this case. Mm-hmm.
Take your time.
Okay, so you actually went there on a bad day when there was a lot of water pooling.
Yes, there was quite a bit of water pooling. It was, I think, during those, that period we had with a lot of storms for like 3 weeks.
So does this site have enough infrastructure in order to allow cars to come in and out of the location?
I would say that yes, there is. Certainly, you have a large driveway and entrance there. I can't speak from a authoritative technical perspective of whether it is appropriate or not, but to me, it looks like there is enough infrastructure to get in and out.
Can you go back to the your site of the location?
This one?
Yes. So if there is no infrastructure for cars, and this is right on the service road, is there enough parking to allow the number of cars they want to display as well as cars to come in to look at cars?
In terms of that, let me pull up the site plan. Here we go. So ingress and egress would be through Ellenwood Road or Ellenwood Drive here. And I believe cars would be able to enter both through this gate and through here. In terms of the parking versus the amount of vehicles displayed, the applicant didn't specify how many vehicles would be displayed, and I would note that part of the way that the parking requirements for this use is calculated, it's sort of it'll depend on how many vehicles you want to display essentially. And so if you have X amount of vehicles or X amount of floor area for vehicle display, then that in turn it derives into Y amount of parking spaces that are required. So the applicant would need to, I think you could say that they would need to adjust their, how many they can display versus how many they can park based on the total available space on the site.
Thank you.
Commissioner Blair, do you want this one to stay on consent? Off? Okay. Any other questions on this item, commissioners? All right, thank you, Mr. Bate. We'll move on to case number 7. Back to Mr. Roberts. Oh, I'm sorry, Commissioner Wheeler, did you have a question on this one? I see a hand. But we can't hear you. Let's give Commissioner Wheeler a second to get her audio back on. Commissioner Wheeler, we're still unable to hear you. Still not hearing you, Commissioner Wheeler. Since this one is coming off consent, if you have questions, maybe we can ask them this afternoon at the hearing. All right, let's go on to number 7, Mr. Roberts.
Thank you, Vice Chair. Give me one moment here. Can everyone see my screen? Can everyone hear me?
Yes, we can see it.
Oh, okay. Wonderful. Thank you. Commission, this is case Z234-203. That's a request for an amendment to an expansion of specific use permit number 2076 for an inside commercial amusement use limited to a live music venue and dance hall. Property zone tract A within PD 269. That's the Deep Elm near East Side District. The requested SUP expiration is a 7-year period. That's an up from the existing 5-year limitation. And then with eligibility for automatic renewals for additional 5-year periods following that 7-year period. The site is located at the northwest corner of Crowdis and Canton. Just to Quick refresher, PD 269 in Tract A does require that SUP for inside commercial amusement. So downtown demolition delay overlay, and then the existing SUP 2076 was renewed in April of 2019. See its location there on site. You can see it occupies almost the whole block over to Henry, not quite. That is on one tract. The existing SUP sort of cuts off the rightmost unit, so this SUP would be expanded to encompass that, all owned by the same entity and operated. It's sort of a cleanup, if you will, the limitations of that SUP. You can see surrounding uses there, some vacant buildings, multifamily uses in the area. This is on Crowdis, looking south, looking west, down Canton, back up at the corner there, and then looking west again down Canton. And that red boundary that you see on the upper right, that is the existing SUP limitations. So this would be expanded to accompany that portion of the building just east of that to the hard corner. And then looking back up on Canton. So here's the existing site plan. Again, you can see those limitations sort of shaded in there. The proposed site plan, looking at that dashed line, the property line being the new limitation. With that, staff's recommendation is approval as requested, the 7-year period with eligibility for the 5-year period automatic renewals. And I'm available for any questions that you may have.
I believe Commissioner Hampton has a question.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Roberts, I had sent you an email asking some questions about the variance between the existing site plan and the site plan that is proposed, missing our site data table, on-street parking. There's a pedestrian crosswalk that's part of the SUP conditions. Wouldn't those typically be maintained on the new site plan?
It is something that we can certainly maybe include in some sort of action on this to recommend that those items get placed back in there.
So is that staff's recommendation approval subject to a revised site plan to match the, understanding the revised site plan is really driven by incorporating the space that's always functionally been part of it, that it's now being included within the SUP?
Correct. And I think just from a procedural standpoint, we tend not to illustrate too much or try not to illustrate too much on the site plan and let the language sort of control. Sort of gives us a little bit of flexibility in terms of when we get this to the CO process and permitting. But if the commission would like to see that illustrated, we can certainly take a look at that.
So, Mr. Chair, it sounds like we'll need to hear this individually.
Okay,
Thank you, Ms.
we'll
Roberts.
take item 7 off consent. Any other questions on this case? Commissioner Carpenter.
Did we get any communication from the Deep Ellum Foundation regarding this particular case? Because I don't recall any cases that we've had for SUP renewals where they supported automatic renewals.
I have not received anything, Commissioner.
All right.
It might be a question for the applicant if this is coming off consent.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions, colleagues? All right. Thank you, Mr. Roberts. We'll go on to item 8. Mr. Kerr.
Morning.
Hi, Mr. Kerr. We're just waiting for your presentation to come up.
Yes, sir. Just a moment. Are you able to see my screen?
Not yet, but let's give it just a second.
How about now?
All right, we can see it now.
Wonderful. This is case Z234230. It's a renewal of SUP number 2211 on 3200 Commerce Street. It's a renewal of SUP 211 for a bar, lounge, or tavern in an inside commercial amusement limited to a live music venue. Requested time period is 3 years. It's located on the southeast corner of Commerce Street and Murray Street, located in Council District 2. Here's the location map. It is in Deep Ellum. Then here's the aerial map. And surrounding uses, there is a multifamily directly north with some parking for that multifamily to the east, some office retail uses and some warehouse uses to the south and to the west and northwest. So this is an existing live music venue. It's the Deep Ellum Art Company, located within PD 269. It's Tract A of the Deep Ellum Near East Side District. SUP 2211 was established in 2021 and it expires in October of this year. There's a zoning sign on Commerce, zoning sign on Murray. Here is on Murray looking northwest, and then on Commerce looking east. Here's the site plan. It should be noted that this inset parking space is not there, but there is an on-street parking space in front. Proposed conditions, it is looking for a 3-year time period. The hours of operation are 4 p.m. to 2 a.m. Monday through Friday, and then between 11 p.m. and 2 a.m. on Saturday and Sunday. And staff's recommendation is approval for this case.
Great, thank you, Mr. Kerr. Any questions on this item, Commissioner Hampton?
Thank you. Mr. Kerr, just two questions for you. Your photos on your site visit, we received 2 replies that were indicating there were some ongoing issues with trash, noise with the venue. Is that anything? Oh, your photos clearly don't show that. Did you receive any feedback on that?
I received one letter stating the noise level at night. I didn't see anything while we were on our site visits with trash or anything like that.
Okay, and are you aware if there are intermediate businesses between this site location and where some of the residences are located that might be contributing to some of these other issues?
I am not aware of that.
Okay, so thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner Hampton. Commissioner Hall.
Mr. Kerr, could you go back to the site plan, please? Right there. What's that squiggly line cutting through the?
So that's the, sorry, go ahead. That looks like that's the terrain line going through there. Just showing the terrain of the land.
Oh, it's topographical. Okay.
Yes.
All right. Yeah. Thank you.
I didn't know that we had topography in Deep Ellum, but you learn something new every day. Any other questions, colleagues? All right, thank you, Mr. Kerr. We're going to move on to case number 9, Ms. Garza, which I believe has not yet been briefed.
Good morning. Item number 9 is KZ 223-301. The request is an application for a planned development district for specific residential and non-residential uses on property zone in MHA Manufactured Home District, an AA Agriculture District, and an LI Light Industrial District, and an R5A Single Family District with consideration for an R5A District. It is located on the west side of Ingersoll Street, west side of Ericus Drive, and north of Noma Street. It's approximately 44.6 acres. This is the location map, the aerial map, and zoning map. Surrounding uses is mostly a single family. Towards the southwest is undeveloped. Towards the northwest is a commercial stable. There is a church use on the southeast and a public or private school. The area request consists of 44.6 acres of undeveloped land. On October 1, 2020, the City Plan Commission recommended denial without prejudice of an application for a CH clustered housing district for this site. The applicant proposes to develop the site with single-family development, however, deviating from the yard lot space and regulations. Therefore, the applicant is requesting a planned development district. This item has been held on June 20, July 11, and August 8 by the City Plan Commission, and there have been changes since for the request since August 8. And these are some of the site photos. On Ingersoll Street, looking west. On Gallagher Street, looking north. On Ericus Drive, looking northwest. Looking west. Looking northwest. Looking southwest. Surrounding uses. On Ingersoll Street, looking north. Looking south. On Gallagher Street, looking east. Looking southeast on Ericus Drive. Looking southeast. Looking southeast. Looking southeast. Looking south. On Ericus Drive, looking northwest. On Noma Street, looking north. Looking east. Looking north. Looking west. And these are the development standards. So existing, as I mentioned, is LI, MHA, AA, and R5A. They're proposing subarea A and B to be the same standards, and then subarea C deviation. So one of the main deviations from subarea A and B and C is that A and B minimum lot size is 4,000, and for subarea C, they're proposing 2,000. So this is a conceptual plan. The conceptual plan has changed since the docket. The only thing that changed was that on subarea C, the density, it is supposed to be 9 dwelling units per acre, not 8. And then it is within the Trinity River Corridor comprehensive land use. The applicant's land use request is consistent with goals and policies of the Trinity River Corridor comprehensive land use. And then as well as the West Dallas comprehensive land use study. The applicant's land use to the north of the request is consistent with the goals of the West Dallas Comprehensive Land Use. However, a portion of the request to the south is not consistent since the future land use recommendation is light industrial. Staff consideration, if for CPC to consider if CPC moves to recommend approval. On the development plan, staff recommendation is for a single family use, a final plan may serve as a development plan. If there is a conflict between the text of this article and a final plan, the text of this article controls for all other uses. A development plan must be approved by the City Plan Commission before the issuance of any building permit to authorize work in this district. As well as staff's consideration for section design standards. Those are the staff's recommendation on.
Is your dad excited?
I think so.
It seems like someone has their microphone online, so if you could, everyone could please mute themselves, that would be great.
So staff consideration is also the sidewalks, pedestrian scale lighting, and alleys. Changes since the last CPC meeting, August 8, are mostly main uses. The applicant is now removing country club with private membership as a permitted use. Private recreating center club or use is now being, SUP is required, and electric substation now requires an SUP. And then the yard lot space changes for subarea A and B. And then subarea A and B as well, the other changes. And then again, yard lot space for subarea A and B and stories. And then the changes for subarea C for front yard, side, and rear. And subarea C, density and lot width. And then for off-street parking, staff recommendation is to just remove the guest parking may be provided within public right-of-way. And then for open space, staff recommendation is to remove a maximum of 55% of open space areas may include detention areas or flood zones. And then other changes, additional provisions, the driveways widths and the right-of-way. And then staff recommendation is to approve an R5A district in lieu of a planned development district.
All right, thank you, Ms. Garza. Commissioner Carpenter, do you have questions?
I have to ask this question, sorry. Are you aware that, one of the reasons, the reason why this was held was that we could have community meetings to see if we could, reach a consensus about this particular site? And are you aware that in the past, the neighborhood has been vociferously opposed to both proposals for mobile homes, manufactured housing on this site, and for permanent rental housing, and that this particular proposal is for detached ownership, single-family homes, and there have been considerable modifications to design standards and lot coverage and all the various different standards trying to reach a compromise between density and affordability. And I'll stop there. Thank you.
Yes, I have been aware.
Thank you.
Commissioner Housewright.
Yes, I wanted to talk about the sidewalks. Those are, of course, very generous sidewalks. They're nice, 6 feet with 5 feet back from the curb. Yet we have some 2,000-foot lots in this application. Was there any discussion about, well, and furthermore, on those 2,000 square foot lots, there's no minimum front yard setback. And so is there been, on the 4,000-foot lots, but the 2,000, well, my report says there's no minimum. On the 2,000, anyway, I'm just asking the question about the impact on the developability in the site planning when there's that big a sidewalk requirement on that small a lot. And I didn't know if that had been discussed, but.
Yes, it has. There'll be an alternate condition proposed. And there is a 20 feet, the minimum front yard on all three districts is 20 feet.
Okay. And so I'm misreading my report.
I don't know what the report, the staff report may not be in sync with the PD conditions, but the PD conditions show 20 feet.
Okay. And then on another topic, was there any discussion about the ratio of guest parking in my community on developments of similar density? I always pursue more guest parking because I don't think that for single-family detached neighborhoods that 0.25 is really adequate. Thank you.
No, it didn't discuss, but the applicant is proposing a minimum of 1 guest space for every 4 dwelling units.
I understand what it says. The question was there discussion about something other than that?
No.
Just one quick follow-up question there. That's a parking minimum, correct? So the developer could put in 2 or 3 guest parking spaces for, any 4 units, right? This is just the floor, not a ceiling.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions on this case? Commissioner Forsyth.
Are there any flood issues with this property being along the Trinity River? Floodplain issues?
I believe it is. Some areas are within the floodplain, but they will have to adjust that before they start doing the actual development. So once it goes to the actual development, building inspections, they will have to modify the area so it's not within the floodplain.
Commissioner Carpenter.
Can we clarify also, this is not a shared access development. The streets will be public streets built to regular city standards, and that in all of the districts in the PD, every house will be set back 20 feet from the street, so there will be parking in the driveway.
Yes.
Thank you.
Commissioners, any other questions? All right, I don't think I see anyone online either. Thank you, Ms. Garza. Case number 10 has been briefed, but I understand that there may be some questions for Mr. Pepe on this one.
Hello and good morning. Yes, the only change would be that the applicant volunteered deed restrictions. Those were distributed 2 days ago.
Commissioner Hall?
Thank you, Mr. Pepe, and I'm glad that we're finally here today to get this case heard. I just wanted to get some clarification from you. The original application was for a PD with neighborhood office, and the staff came up with a recommendation for neighborhood services, feeling that neighborhood office maybe was not in compliance with the land use plan and wasn't the best use. Could you elaborate just a bit on that?
Yes, no, absolutely. I mean, the existing comprehensive plan calls for us to have flexible zoning that can be used for multiple purposes, that can be used for multiple uses, that encourages more complete neighborhoods. Then single-use, small lot PDs. So definition of PDs also calls for them to be used in situations where there are physical characteristics of a site that prevent it from being developed within the existing code, and staff puts that into practice that if there are significant limitations of existing code, that's a good opportunity to maybe use PD. But nothing about this proposal couldn't meet code. It was pretty standard commercial space, so it likely can meet a pretty standard NSA zoning. So that was found to be more appropriate based on, again, for Dallas original.
Thank you. And the applicant, am I correct that the applicant wanted a PD with NO to limit the uses of this site, specifically to an office, but by going with NS, we now, and after conversations with the neighborhood, we've determined that we could go with NS with deed restrictions and get the same results.
Yes, that was their stated intention for a PD in the first place. But they also, while it was tricky because they had the NO base, but it stated that they might want some personal service uses, which are not allowed in the NO base. So they use PD to shove that into the NO, but why do that when an NS district accommodates both of those uses and is appropriate for the site? And so then, yes, I understood that deed restrictions arose. They took out some of the more intense parts of NSA that to meet those neighborhood concerns.
Yeah. Thank you. Could you, in your briefing, you say that this site is no longer suitable for R16 for residential. Could you just elaborate a bit on that?
Yes, I think, and a lot of planners, this is a classic planning question, that low density residential kind of isolated detached home right next to freeway. We've had comments that say this is a high traffic corridor on Royal alone. So it's a high traffic arterial. You know, today you might not even be able to get a residential driveway on an arterial because of current street standards. So point being is combination of that size road, that size highway, access road, one-way access. It's quality of life. It's about quality of life. In that case, noise, safety, those kinds of things. So would not find detached low-density residential appropriate there now that the road is the way it is and the highway is the way that it is.
Okay, thank you. Just if someone was determined to put some sort of residential there, it could still be allowed. Am I correct? If we did not change the zoning.
Yeah, it's completely developable as residential single family right now by right, if left as is.
Okay, and one final question. The land use plan Forward Dallas 2006 has a section that states that sites like this are would be very good to put some sort of neighborhood services on them, sites at major intersections and so forth. That wasn't stated in your brief, but it is part of Forward Dallas.
Yeah, that part of the implementation steps is obviously a subset of other land use goals and objectives, but I would agree that it applies in this situation for sure.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Pippin.
One quick follow-up. Mr. Pepe, you say that low-density residential isn't appropriate at the corner of what I believe is a major arterial and a freeway. Would it be more appropriate for high-density residential? Does the greater density obviate the problems of being next to a freeway?
That's an important question in our field right now. I would say facing, because we have freeways running all over the city. I think that there are arguments that if you have a more dense residential, it insulates individual units to a degree, so you have more people there. But then a denser building, a thicker, denser building can shelter residential to the east, so there's a benefit there. But I think that you might find that because you have attached units, they're a little more insulated. They don't have four sides exposed necessarily to the sights and sounds of what's around them. So I would find that helps a little bit. But also there's access to roads. Whenever you have significant access to infrastructure that kind of cuts in a different direction, that it's more appropriate for higher density when you have more infrastructure there.
Great, thank you for indulging that one. Any other questions, colleagues? All right, yeah, why don't we take a break? Let's take 10 minutes and be back at 10:25 a.m. The record. I think we are on case number 11. Mr. Clinton?
This is item number 11, case Z234-190. It's an application for an LI Light Industrial District on property zoned in A Agricultural District on the south side of Telephone Road between North Dallas Avenue and Van Horn Drive. The purpose of the request is to rezone the property I'm sorry, that should say CS, my apologies. So let me restart. It's an application for a CS Commercial Service District on property zone AA Agricultural District on the south side of Telephone Road between North Dallas Avenue and Van Horn Drive. The applicant is looking to request or to rezone this property CS to allow the development of a trucking business warehouse. It's approximately 6.5 acres in total size. Really quickly, this was heard at the July 11th meeting, and it was moved to hold under advisement until today. Since the last hearing, the applicant has volunteered a few deed restrictions to prohibit certain uses on the property. In addition to that, they have volunteered deed restrictions involving the minimum rear yard setback, side yard setback, and parking. And also the staff recommendation has changed since the last hearing. Here's our location map. Here's our aerial map. Surrounding uses include light industrial, agricultural, and single family to the south. Here are the site visit photos. This is on Telephone Road looking southeast. Telephone Road looking southeast. Same location looking southwest. Same location looking northeast. Same location looking to the adjacent surrounding uses. This is also to the left of the site. This is looking towards the property as well as from the intersection. And a brief development standards chart. Again, the existing zoning is agricultural, and the applicant is looking to change it to commercial service. Here's a brief summary of the voluntary deed restrictions. Again, the applicant has voluntary deed restrictions to prohibit certain uses, main uses and accessory uses. Those uses are listed in the case report. They have also voluntary deed restrictions to minimum rear yard being 100 feet, minimum side yard being 20 feet, and then parking and maneuvering of vehicles is not allowed to the rear yard, in the rear yard setback due to the adjacent residential uses. Staff's analysis, there are existing surrounding residential uses to the south. There's a farm to the west of the site. Parking and traffic ingress and egress access will need to be worked out. Their zoning signs will need to be secured again, because last time I was out there doing the site visit, the sign was on the ground. And then there are also agricultural uses to the east and west. So staff finds that the proposed use is appropriate for the area. And staff's recommendation is approval, subject to the deed restrictions volunteered by the applicant.
Commissioner Blair.
Thank you, Mr. Clinton. Is it not correct that this area, especially this street, is in a transition? It's right next to PD 761, which is the inland port, and it's in a transitional state to more of an industrial use opposed to any other use?
That's correct.
Is it not, and I don't remember hearing in your staff report or in your briefing that there has been, in the last year, 2 or 3 other zoning cases that did the same kind of use?
Yes, so in the last 5 years, there have been 2 zoning cases.
This one would be the third?
Yes.
And both of them had the same type of use?
That's correct.
And the buffering in the back, the 100 feet, is that not also as a buffering for the next use? But is there not a creek that goes back there?
Yes, there is a creek that runs to the south of the subject site, and that splits runs in the, I guess, between the subject site and the existing residential to the south of the site.
So the natural buffer would be that creek, and then the 100 feet additional buffering would be to protect the creek from this particular use, as well as keeping it more of a prettier back. Is that not correct?
That's correct.
Is it not, well, I don't know if you know, but is it not true that this is a far bigger buffer than the other case that is on this same creek is providing?
Yes, I did realize that.
Thank you.
Any other questions on this item? All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Clinton. Let's move on to number 12, Mr. Pepe.
All right. Okay. Moving right in, Z223280. This is located in Uptown. And it's an application for a plan development sub-district on property zoned in MF2 multiple family sub-district within plan development district number 193, the Oaklawn Purpose District on the west line of Carlisle Street between North Hall and Carlisle Place. Approximately 2.447 acres. And the purpose of the request is to allow modified development standards primarily related to uses, setbacks, density, lot coverage, floor area ratio, height, design standards, parking, landscaping, signs, and mixed income housing to develop the site with residential and restaurant uses. And here's the site as it exists today. So we walk around the site. There's an electrical substation to the north. There's vertical mixed use to the northeast. There's multiple family to the east and south. And there's more multiple family under this development in the southwest. And Katy Trail runs along the northwest approach of the property. So the background being it's currently that MF2 subdistrict. It is developed with multiple family uses planned to be removed. Sort of a low-rise multifamily at this time. They're requesting a PDS based on MF2 with some significant changes to add in standards as well as the restaurant use. They would have design standards. They're proposing a development plan and a landscape plan. Let's go down to this site. We're at Carlisle Street. I'm going to head up Carlisle. It's the entrance to the current multifamily. It's the parking lot of the multifamily. You turn on Carlisle Place, which is kind of a one-way, not a one-way, but a dead-end street. And here is back of the multifamily that exists there today. Flip around down to Hall, look north at the property. Existing multifamily. Now back here on the Katy Trail, looking back towards, that's the parking lot you could see from the trail at this time. And it's kind of the south part of the existing multifamily from the trail. Back on Carlisle Place, looking north at the mixed use. It's north of here. Office farther east. Multifamily across Carlisle. Multifamily south of Hall, and the development site across Hall, headed back towards the trail. And here's the development plan as they proposed it. A little closer view. Really sort of, just to put it in broad strokes, this development plan is backed up by the zoning conditions that prescribes a lower height down on Hall Street. It increases as it heads towards Carlisle Place, both by setbacks and this plan. Also a little more limited in height along the Katy Trail, focuses that height on Carlisle Place. And the restaurant is meant to be back on the Katy Trail. Here's a landscape plan as they proposed it. Again, shows the restaurant area, shows the existing buildings, shows the street trees. And here are all the changes to the development standards as they proposed them. Again, they'd tie height and FAR to mixed income housing. And again, the setbacks govern those step backs in the building. When analyzing for a base FAR and height, we looked at the what's entitled around the area right now. Kind of a big variety in a couple of PD subdistricts, as well as the existing subdistricts of 193 and the FAR nearby. So we did set the base at 2.5 FAR as the base. There are higher FARs nearby, but not exactly at this site. And so as for the mixed income housing provisions, they're requesting to take that 2.5 FAR to 5.8. That's a 3.3 increase. So most similar in the existing code, in the existing bonus structure that we have is 10 at 61 to 80 AMI, 5 at 81 to 100 AMI. That's 3.0 FAR bonus. They're requesting a little bit more than that. But as such, closest thing we're using that 10 and 5 is the staff recommendation. And instead, the applicant proposes 5 at that 61 to 80. Quickly, design standards do use 4.1107, the mixed income housing development bonus design standards, except where specified, but they meet most of them, including garage screening. All their garages have to be underground except for one partial floor, and that's just because of the slope of the site. The site slopes as you head towards the hall, and then Carlisle's place is higher. That's it for the parking structures. They have 6-foot sidewalk, 5-foot parkway, some protected crossings and where they abut parking. If there is any parking has to be actually just temporary drop-off, pickup. Pedestrian scale lighting is built in there. Transparency is meant to be evenly spaced along the facades, individual entries, so units have to have individual entries, but uses along the trail, including that restaurant, have to have access to the trail to activate that. Standard fencing language from the design standards. 2 pieces of street furniture on each frontage. 20,000 square foot of open space is required. That's 19% of the lot area. And there's limits on the driveway widths and how many they can have per frontage. As for the landscaping, they did need some variations from the Part 1 landscaping of PD 193, but let's think of it as quality versus quantity. They had to decrease their landscape site area. That's the more general landscape area built into PD 193. And so this says more of it has to be focused in their front yards. And beyond that increases the general planting area, which think of it as a one upgrade step of quality of landscaping is increased. And then they increase the special landscaping area, the highest quality, up a little bit more. And so all of those need to be focused towards the facade. So it's less landscaping site area per the entire lot, but we get more quality because it's near the streets, near where people can actually enjoy and see it, be shaded by it and things like that. And then there's a higher percentage of that quality landscaping space. Parking, they're proposing parking at Part 1. The base Part 1, staff recommendation is 4.1107, which is the the standard for mixed income housing, so we recommend that. And finally, staff recommendation is approval subject to a development plan, a landscape plan, and staff's recommended conditions.
Thank you, Mr. Pepe. Questions on this item? Commissioner Kingston.
Are you, I'm not sure if you hit this, but are you aware that the applicant is also funding a crosswalk across, I think it's Carlisle?
Yes, I mentioned that.
Okay. And are you also aware that the applicant is doing voluntary deed restrictions in favor of the Oak Lawn Committee for the sister site across the street?
I've heard, yes.
Okay, thank you.
The crosswalk did make it into the conditions here, so that's there.
Well, the deed restrictions wouldn't be, but I think that's important to this community.
Members, any other questions on this item? All right, seeing none, we will move on to case number 13. Back to you, Mr. Pepe.
Okay. This is Z223-286. This is located about as far northwest in the city as you can get without being in Cypress Waters. So it's on Luna Road. It's an application for a specific use permit for an industrial outside potentially incompatible use limited to asphalt or concrete crushing on property zoned in IM, Industrial Manufacturing District, on the east line of Luna Road between Y Street and Ryan Road. Area of request is 20 acres. And the purpose of the request is to allow the use of an asphalt or concrete crushing facility on the site. And here's the site as it exists today, undeveloped. Multiple industrial uses around it. So to the north, there's an asphalt or concrete batching plant. To the east, there's sand, gravel, or earth sales and storage. To the south, there is another concrete crushing facility under a different SUP, and there's a public park golf course across the street. So it is currently undeveloped. It's got that IM zoning. Proposed use, to put a lot of words short, is specifically is industrial outside, where industrial manufacturing takes place outside. Concrete crushing is one of those enumerated uses, but it doesn't give us additional definition. But we've confirmed with our permitting side that this is the correct use for this subset. So they're limited to that concrete crushing in this SUP. And as we get down to the site, here we are on Luna, looking east at the site, going a little farther south, a little farther southeast. Then looking west, standing on the ingress to the site, and looking west at Luna, looking southwest at Luna, and looking down south on Luna. And looking back north up the road. That's looking at park, other facilities that are to the west. So as for the development standards, they do have to keep to those development standards of IM. No traditional building being constructed here, so that's not a particular issue for them. Big part of review was Trinity River Corridor Comprehensive Land Use Plan. You can kind of maybe, if you put your face to the screen, see the blue square in the northwestmost portion. It is designated as higher capacity industrial, but it does have a more closer urban design framework for the particular area. You can more easily see the light blue part of the parcel right there along Luna, which being the west street in this plan. Plan calls for better buffering along Luna, support the investments made in park facilities around there, improve that road just a little bit. And so as you'll see, some of the conditions call to carry that out. There's a site plan for the use. Basically, concrete crushing takes place in the middle of the site. Rubble is stored at the back part of the site. Conditions will have limits on those functions. That's basically as it gets. And they enter only from Luna Road. So conditions are standard. They are requesting 10 years with 10 years automatic renewal. Staff recommendation is going to be 5 years for the use, allow for additional review, compliance when they get the facility running. There's a limit on the stacking height of that. And similarly to SUPs in the area, calls for wheel washing when they do improve Luna Road. Not in place at the moment because it's a substandard road, if you will, at this time, but then they'd have to carry that out after that point. Snooze. My computer's trying to update. Well, that's a problem for later. We did have buffering conditions in, you can see there. However, conversations with commissioners, also our landscape staff, produce some different conditions. These are the stock conditions that they have in there already right now. We don't recommend changes to those. Those are fine to have in there, but I will get to the conditions proposed after the docket. Those being, they would replace the 6 and 7 buffer yard conditions, calling for a 30-foot buffer yard along the western part of the property. And basically what that calls for is you can't put structures there, storage materials, things like that. It's got to be landscaping. And so at the heart of most important is they call for a tighter shrub row, about 6 feet in height, 6 foot along that right of way. In the first 15 feet from the property line and excluding the driveways. And then a canopy tree is 30 feet and they'd have double rows staggered to kind of have a little bit more depth on those on that canopy. Calls for 75% of them to be live oaks, which are evergreen. Can't be closer than 20 feet. So basically, the initial intent of the conditions in the docket were filtering. This goes a little bit further in that regard, filtering of material, dust. And so we do approve of those conditions briefed, and staff's recommendation is for a 5-year period subject to a site plan and conditions as briefed.
Thank you, sir. Good morning, Commissioners. Questions on this item? Commissioner Chernow, please.
I have a question on when it says potentially incompatible.
That's just not a term I'm familiar with in any of our previous cases. What exactly does that mean?
Yeah, it's not it's not making a value judgment, I guess you could say. It's part of how our code, I'm trying to scroll back to the definition personally. It's part of how our code puts the most intense industrial uses. They call them potentially incompatible industrial uses. It's any intense industrial use you can think of that goes outside. And basically it says, you know, you can do industrial uses outside in IM by right unless they're XYZ. This is one of the XYZ uses, crushing. And so in that case, you need an SUP, because potentially incompatible is basically kind of a filter to say, hey, do you need an SUP for this use even in an IM? And then it adds a review to make sure that it's not in an incompatible location. That's what this is. So it's the most intense industrial uses, but that qualifier is, we should use an SUP to make sure this is an appropriate particular site for it.
Commissioner Hall?
Mr. Pepe, are there similar businesses to the north and south of this site?
There is there's the same use is established in an SUP to the south, and then to the north is a concrete batching plant. So I'm not an expert, but I think that they are related, because I think that you may break down concrete on one, produce concrete on the other. So they function kind of similarly, but absolutely, it's a very intense corridor. It comes with challenges. That's why we have some mitigation measures in the conditions. But generally, the uses of this intensity are established in the area for sure.
Okay. And when you, I noticed they're requiring wheel washing and then sprinklering the site to keep the dust down. So obviously, this is going to generate a lot of dust one way or the other. And the landscaping is extensive on this, and I noticed they suggested 75% live oaks, but when we tell them they have to landscape this, do we give them more specific directions for what kind of bushes and trees to use that are perhaps more hardy and would not be impacted by the dust and traffic and things like that?
Yeah, no, great question. Our arborists have looked at this and have some certainty about live oak species being acceptable. Otherwise, the shrubs and other plant materials either have to be from the approved list or approved by the director. So there is some oversight that our landscaping folks will be able to play into this. Choose appropriate plantings and choose hardy ones that will be appropriate for the site. And beyond that, if they were to choose species that were, we're not working for that environment, when this comes up for renewal, that's a thing to review for. We can say, well, they've planted some of this, but their shrubs died. You need to replant and pick another one. It's a potential point for, upon re-review of an SUP, is compliance with that. If they were to choose something that they shouldn't have, that's another round of review, potentially.
And when you say you recommend approval, does that take into account the impact that this site might have on the golf course across the street?
Yes, and I think that was part of the Trinity River Land Use Corridor Study recommendation for enhanced landscaping along here, where they recognize, they say that this is going to be in a heavy industrial area. That plan recognizes that, but it also calls for these enhanced plantings with the express purpose of kind of protecting those investments, protecting Luna Road as well. I do feel like that these will make a difference in that regard.
Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Forsyth.
Are there any residential neighborhoods that are going to be impacted by this that are nearby?
This is a highly isolated area of industrial. So the land use plans have called for industrial, specifically because it is quite distant from it. I could go into detail, but we have this industrial area, we have the railroad, we have more industrial, and then it transitions to commercial as you get towards 35. Then you have commercial of Harry Hines, corridor, and then only then multiple miles away are you in a residential neighborhood. So it was not a concern. It was not a concern because it's not an issue present.
Any other questions, commissioners? Okay, thank you, sir. Go to number 14. Good morning.
This is case Z223-302. It's an application for a CS Commercial Service District on property zone in R75A, Single Family District. The purpose of the request is to allow an office showroom / warehouse and industrial inside for light manufacturing uses on the site. It's the location map. Outlined in blue is the area of request. The next few slides will be pictures of the site and the surrounding area. This is the site plan. And these are the development standards. And staff recommendation is denial.
Thank you. Questions, commissioners? Commissioner Hall?
What sits on this site right now?
It looks like it's some type of warehouse distribution that's currently on the site in front, but the actual area request is, it should be vacant, but it has some of the spillover from the warehouse use on the site.
And in your report, I think you said that it appeared that this site was already encroaching on single family. What did you mean by that?
They mean that some of the items that they have is placed into the area of request.
Okay. And there are single family homes just to the south?
Yes.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Any other questions, commissioners? Okay, thank you. Now to our, go to number 15, our Development Code Amendment. Mr. Wade, good to see you again, sir.
Good morning. Let me set up quickly. Thank you to the Superior, Michael, for helping me with technology right now. The Senior and Superior. Okay. Good morning, Michael Wade, code amendments with planning and development. Today, we're talking about the Commercial Motor Vehicle Code Amendment, DCA 223003. And before I read this, I just want to make clear that this is not the larger off-street parking and loading code amendment. We received some phone calls and communications of people thinking that it might be. This is not at all related to that. So the topic today, consideration of amending chapters 51 and 51A, the Dallas Development Code, with consideration to be given to amending sections 51, 2.102 and 51A, 2.102 definitions, 51A, 4.20210, machinery, heavy equipment, or truck sales and service, 51A, 4.210B3, auto service center, 51A, 4.210B, 8.1, commercial motor vehicle parking, 51, 4.212, 18, and 51A, 4.210B9, commercial parking lot or garage, 51A, 4.210B, 16.1, liquefied natural gas fueling station, 51A, 4.210B, 30.1, truck stop, 51, 4.2122, automobile or motorcycle display sales and service, outside display, 51A, 4.210B, 30.1, vehicle display sales and service, 51, 4.217B9, open storage, 51A, 4.217B6, accessory outside storage, and related sections with consideration to be given to developing appropriate standards, definitions, and distinctions for oversized vehicles and trailers. And I promise that that's the longest slide that we have today. So this is going to be a brief presentation, talk about why we're looking at it, what staff looked at, and then the proposal that's been recommended by Zoning Ordinance Advisory Committee. This began in December of 2022. Our Code Compliance Department presented to the Quality of Life, Arts and Culture Committee about difficulty enforcing the weight maximum on vehicles parked in front driveways in sections 51A, 4.217B6, accessory outside storage. So just to note that in the city of Dallas, we regulate vehicles parked in the front driveway as storage, not as parking. The current regulation in that code section is that code prohibits a vehicle over 32 feet long or 1.5 tons of carrying capacity from parking in any primary yard. This is the only place in the code that we use the term primary yard, and actually our proposal recommends just sort of undoing that term. It's a useful term that we can use elsewhere. Very basically, it just means the area between the building and any street. So you have a diagram that shows the yellow area of a corner lot, which would be considered the primary yard. The issues that code compliance staff have identified: carrying capacity information is difficult to ascertain for vehicles. Code compliance officers would need to do a significant amount of research on very specific models of vehicles to identify carrying capacity and a multitude of other weight metrics. Very frequently, these actually just aren't even online. The increasing size of pickup trucks used as personal or non-commercial vehicles is bringing attention to the inconsistency of this regulation. So cars are getting bigger, trucks are getting bigger. And then the Dallas Development Code generally uses inconsistent methods to regulate vehicles. We use different weights, sizes, and builds. In the Zoning Ordinance Advisory Committee, we discussed the millions upon millions of variety that any particular truck could come in depending on the build. The top row of images here are trucks that are being parked in front driveways. These are already illegal. These are not permitted. These are inappropriate. The vehicles on the bottom are vehicles that still kind of flirt with the line that we draw around what's appropriate. So you might see some very common vehicles there. This is why we are reassessing this regulation. And to be clear, today's code amendment is really just tweaking the zoning code to be more useful for code enforcement. Stepping back, why do we have a regulation like this? Generally, it's to protect the reasonable enjoyment of residential areas by prohibiting vehicles that introduce major noise, dirt, or visual nuisances. This isn't stated in the code. This is staff sort of amalgamated reasoning. And then also we use size and other thresholds to delineate clearly which vehicles are intended to be served by certain land uses. This regulation does not get into, and this code amendment does not get into, prohibiting all vehicles used for commercial purposes. We're not trying to prohibit any small truck for a small business that doubles as a personal vehicle necessarily. We're not trying to redefine or re-examine what's considered a reasonable use of someone's property. We're not necessarily getting into policy around whether we can park RVs or boats or 18-wheelers in front yards. That this is really just tweaking the code to make it more usable for code compliance. Additionally, what we're not talking about today is regulating the impact of vehicle sizes or the activity of vehicles on public right-of-way. That's the realm of Department of Transportation, and there are other provisions in the city code to deal with that. The staff analysis included the whole slate and layers of regulations, federal, state, and Dallas City Code. That includes Chapter 51A and 51, the Development Code. We also looked to Chapter 28 and Chapters 44 and other areas of the code just for cues on what's considered appropriate, how the city treats different sizes of vehicles. We looked at peer cities, the market, what are people buying, and really what are the characteristics of those vehicles. And then we kept up, of course, a healthy conversation with code compliance and our Department of Transportation. To get into the proposal quickly, we just recommend a very standard definition for an oversized motor vehicle with a dimensional box of 22 feet long, 8 feet wide, or 9 feet high. So any vehicle that exceeds any one of those dimensions would be considered an oversized motor vehicle. Or if it has 2 or more rear axles, or if it is designed to transport more than 15 passengers. Oversized trailer, we're also recommending just as a standardized definition for what could be used as just a very inappropriate trailer use. Again, some images. These vehicles generally show about the box, and I have another kind of more diagrammatic image following this. We have the Mercedes-Benz Sprinter 15-passenger van on the right, and then some trucks on the left side. If you can see the green box on your screens, that's the dimensional box that we're proposing. Generally, the personal vehicles that we've looked at fit within that box. Again, in no way we're trying to change city policy around whether it's good to park dump trucks, 18-wheelers, et cetera, in a front driveway. Additional parts of this proposal, we just want to implement these very standardized definitions throughout some of these land uses. This is kind of what ZOAC Conversations centered on. And then we're also just updating and organizing relevant land uses, the accessory outside storage land use, to make it more readable and to reflect what zoning review staff have already interpreted. From our ZOAC conversation, a couple of points. Implementing the new term oversized motor vehicle does not impact our ability to interpret and delineate between relevant land uses. So for instance, the difference between motor vehicle fueling station and truck stop is not any more ambiguous than it was before. Additionally, we're proposing to insert the language "or electric vehicle charging stations" into the truck stop land use. Zoning review is saying that this also does not introduce any confusion or ambiguity. It's simply clarifying that this is an appropriate activity or element of a truck stop. ZOAC's recommendation was approval of the proposed amendment and to forward it to the City Council for public hearing. One other element quickly, Chapter 28, which does deal with our public right-of-way, will need to see an amendment. This is a Department of Transportation issue, and they're looking into that right now. Just in our 2880 and 2881, this involves parking along residential block faces. We're saying that these need amendments just to bring everything into alignment with these new definitions. And again, we worked with the Department of Transportation on these new definitions. I'm available for questions.
Thank you, sir. Questions, commissioners? Commissioner Hall?
Is this just about parking in the front yard driveways? These vehicles could still park in the street?
Our code amendment today doesn't regulate what's parked on the street. That's correct.
Okay, so they they could still be parked at a residence on the street, but not in the driveway.
That's correct, and I believe Chapter 28 has provisions, has an allowance for what can be parked there for 24 hours versus longer than 24 hours, that kind of a thing.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Forsyth.
What are the current, are there any current regulations or specifications right now? You're indicating this is like 22 feet long. Is there anything in there now, or is?
Yes, currently it's a length of 32 feet and a carrying capacity of 1.5 tons, that's 3,000 pounds. That is related to how pickup trucks were sort of manufactured and branded in the early 1900s, and it was just a labeling system that has carried on to today. So you see that reflected in names like Ford F-150, that kind of a thing. However, those labels aren't attached at all to carrying capacity anymore. So our main goal here was to remove weight as a consideration. That's the real crux of the difficulty for code enforcement officers, and to make it something that they can ascertain readily just by measuring height, length, and width.
And could you go back to your slide where you're talking about what you're not regulating? You included in there, you stated not regulating 18-wheelers. I would think an 18-wheeler would be an oversized type of, so.
Yes, and I'm sorry, let me clarify. What this code amendment is doing is not changing our current prohibition on 18-wheelers. So for instance, those are illegal, those are not appropriate, not permitted right now. Our code amendment today isn't changing that.
Thank you, sir. Any other questions on this item, commissioners? Okay, thank you, sir. Mr. Wade. Commissioners, number 16 has been briefed before, and I think we have some staff availability for about 3 minutes, so maybe we'll table it for now, and we'll take questions before the hearing if we have any. So keep those questions. If there are any outstanding questions on number 16, then we will circle back to those before we hear the case. Number 17 is going to be held under advisement till September 19th. We brief it then. Okay, commissioners. Excellent. Commissioners, it's 11:17 a.m. That concludes the briefing of the Dallas City Plan Commission. Record time. Enjoy your long lunch. See you at 12:30.